Good evening, everyone. Welcome back once again. I believe this is now episode 10 of Question Time Live. So, yeah, absolutely amazing. Thank you to everybody who's supporting it, the viewers, the reach. It's going up every week. I'll start by getting in a quick plea to hit that share button and get this out to as many people as we can, so they can all benefit from any knowledge shared and gained. So yeah, the past week since the last episode, it's been a very busy one. Certainly in Japan and over here. Actually, had the shipment in, which went incredibly well. Yeah, got way more fish than I know what to do with at the minute, but I'm sure that won't be for long. And yeah, it's been auction time. Very much a busy part of the season for that at the minute. They've had the Niigata Breeders' Auction, which has been a really good success. Some great fish there to sort of share with you. Get these over on screen. Got cracking Deutsche Chibas for the Wakakoi Koi show. These from Kokai, absolutely great little fish. He just produced some absolute little weapons. So fingers crossed for some success with them. NND was the main focus of the auction for me. There had some absolutely phenomenal pieces entered. So yeah, the first one being this Kohaku that I managed to secure. Absolutely incredible piece. I've watched this lineage really come from nothing at NND to an absolute, it's going to be a real challenger before long. They're getting size to it. They've developed a beni type on the fish that just I've not seen in many others. I've got a couple at the facility over here, and they just glow. The beni looks like it's got neon bulbs under the skin. It's incredible, and they're getting the size and body form to go with it. So yeah, I was very happy to bag that one. Also being entered into the show, and then we'll probably stay in Japan to grow on. And then yeah, the real star of the show, fish I'd seen posted a couple of weeks prior. They got the NND DK lineage shiros. I've watched the whole shiro lineage from the day it started. And it's just gone from strength to strength. And yeah, saw this absolute rocket posted by them. The minute I saw it, I thought there's absolutely no way I can't have that fish in our collection. So yeah, it was seriously heavy bidding in the auction. This is again for the show, and really hoping and expecting, to be honest, it to do incredibly well. It's going to take some fish to beat it, and yeah, it'd be great to see where it heads in future as well. Obviously, Tosai like that can be challenging, but yeah, fingers crossed. And knowing their lineage, should hopefully have a nice stable year in the mud pond, and we'll see what we get at Nisai. But for now, absolutely amazing piece. I'm over the moon to have bagged that one. So yeah, happy days. Let's see how we get on. The show's just around the corner. And then following all that, you just think it's gone a bit mad. We're into Dainichi auctions once again. I really wish they would just stop it now. A colossal amount of fish. They've entered loads of koi show, and obviously as each one auction goes, the quality tends to sort of step up the gears. But I've managed to bag 3 exceptional pieces in the past 2 days. Got our hands on this Showa today. Absolutely phenomenal from the Super Monster lineage. Had a lot of success with that. This one from yesterday, absolutely incredible. Blown away with that one. Super Monster again, but what a fish. Can only see that sort of going one way, to be fair. And then, yeah, Kindai Showa. Wow. Just the farm's just incredible. It's not just a case of they're producing quality in quantity. It's just ridiculous what they're doing. So yeah, plenty of others amongst it. It's been a very competitive auction. Obviously, people going after the quality stuff. There's never any struggles with that. Showing a lot of good Sankey in there as well, which is nice. Dainichi Sankey's are sort of few and far between. And they don't come around every year. So the M Sankey line that they've got, they seem to have had a real good spawn. I managed to bag a couple of good examples already. And yeah, hoping there's more in a couple of days' time, and hoping to bag a few more of them ones. So yeah, fantastic. So anyway, enough of that. Today's guest, very, very long time friend of mine, very passionate koi keeper, which if you're on social media, you'll no doubt have stumbled across her commenting and giving her opinion somewhere. And yeah, absolutely. Yeah, say long time known her, incredibly passionate and someone great to talk koi with. So yes, let's bring her in, Shirley Gibson from sunny Devon. How are you, Shirley?
I'm fine. It's not been so sunny today, but we live in
No,
hopes.
it's miserable,
Yes.
isn't it?
Yeah. Thanks for having me on, Ricky. Um,
Pleasure, pleasure.
Congratulations on that shiro. It is just an incredible fish. Um,
Unbelievable, isn't it?
I also think we're very privileged at the moment that somebody like Donald Kerr has allowed Fujio to use that as a parent fish.
Mm, mm,
What they're producing is quality. It's just consistent throughout. Um,
absolutely.
and going back over the previous spawnings, yeah, they're certainly a fish to have in your collection. Um,
They are strength,
and I
strength to
think
strength.
Donald's, brilliant for allowing them to use it. So,
Mm,
yeah, look forward to seeing how you do with that. I'm sure there will
I
be
know.
very little to beat it.
I have,
Um,
I have. It's going to be a learning experience one way or another. Because if it doesn't do what I'm expecting it to, having seen sort of entrants in the past and whatnot, I'm definitely going to need to see what does beat it, and it will be a very, very great learning experience.
That's interesting to hear. Welcome to my world.
Mm,
There's been
mm.
several others. Yeah, I mean, we all buy these koi and hope it's going to work, but occasionally it doesn't,
Yeah.
and it's refreshing to think,
You can just never be too certain at
no,
this all Japan level though, because I mean, as good as I think that is, you've got to remember that Omasako is going to be there on the day.
yeah,
Narita's going to have his army there on the day. Just yeah, the level's so extreme,
yeah, yeah.
but great
Well,
to be challenging.
if not this time, maybe next, because I'm sure with that bloodline, they're just going to overtake Shiros in future. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
they're
they're doing
some of the
well.
best
They're
I've
doing
seen
really
in a
well.
long time. So fingers
Fantastic.
crossed.
So, Shirley, what have we got on the list today?
Right. Question number one. This is from a friend of mine. We live
Okay.
in a very, I know it's been covered before. We live in a very soft water area down here in Devon.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to keep KH and pH levels stable. Um, Most of the time, bicarb is used. Is there anything
Yeah.
else that is recommended that will have a more stabling effect than bicarb as it tends?
Yeah, the only other one, I forgot the name of it now. But to be honest with you, you're better off with sodium bicarbonate. Obviously, if it's a real problem, you could be dosing it to bring it in.
Yeah.
Honestly, the name, I'm a bit tired tonight. I'm not going to lie. Stupid decision to go and watch Man United last night, and that's probably going to lose me a load of followers. But yeah, bicarbonate. It's the one I still use now because it's it's going to get you out of trouble a bit quicker.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, definitely the one to stick with. And you are right. It's a very soft water area where you are, and it's obviously a tough one to deal with, isn't it? So uh,
Yeah.
just keeping your eye on it and
Yeah.
dosing with that when necessary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not really
Okay.
too much more you can do, unfortunately. Other than obviously, yeah, sorry. Then obviously other options you can go revert to obviously the Japanese methods, use it, but I think filtration systems these days don't really allow the likes of oyster shells. And yeah, back in the day, I think Kasori had a product called Aqua,
Yeah.
which was quite good. Obviously, all the oyster shells obviously to soak up the free acid in the water and just obviously stop it, stop the KH deteriorating so quickly,
Yeah.
which are a great one. But looking at how filters are built these days, I've really struggled to see where they can be added. Probably one of the best bets in systems as they are these days would be to use them in shower filters.
Yeah.
And I think from the submerged perspective, the footprints are getting smaller. You can't really use one in a Nexus sort of combi drum systems. There's only just enough space for the media. So yeah, possibly in like shower filters, and you've got to remember as well that they've got to be changed regularly.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
these things don't last forever. But yeah, in your kind of scenario, that's probably what I'd be heading for. Using bicarb if needs be, but then just trying to maintain the stability as much as possible with something like shells.
Yeah.
To keep a bit more stability there.
Right. So just slightly on that vein, is it something to be considered with beni types with regards to Go Sankey? The fact that we're in a soft area and we have to buffer, is that likely to have much of an impact on particular types of beni, or?
Yeah, I find this one an interesting because it's easy just to chuck water into hard water, soft water brackets,
Yeah.
and there's just so much more to it overall. I mean, Benny's going to also be affected by UV. That's going to have a huge impact. I can't remember if we discussed it on here or people privately. Polycarbonate that obviously lets daylight through but cuts UV transmission can cause that sort of softening of the beni where the pigment's sort of retracting a little bit. For me personally, I mean, I look at obviously where I'm keeping them. Just different lineages in different waters. There can be metal trace elements in water that's gonna have a different pot. All sorts of the whole water makeup, regardless of it being hard or soft, that can impact color pigmentation. And then we get onto different bloodlines. I've seen different bloodlines of kohaku react so differently in different types of water. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know you've always struggled with Nagami kohaku a little bit in your water, if I remember right.
I have two that have actually kept the beni and kept it well.
Okay.
I now know the bloodlines to go down, the ones to avoid. But that's me. A lot of people don't bother with bloodlines, don't see the importance of it. But it's just my curiosity because I've had so many that I've lost the beni.
Yeah. So if we go by the guidelines of that, obviously what's typically said is that beni keeps better when the water's soft. Well, it can be obviously fish by fish, especially if it's coming down to color loss. We're talking about maintaining sort of beni quality here. But I keep Nagami kohaku incredibly well in my water.
Yeah.
And it's nothing like, yours is incredibly soft. Mine's pretty just normal sort of standard mid-range water. So yeah, it's a tough one. I'm not one more for looking at the water itself and it's every breeder's fish will do slightly differently in different types of water, but that being the full makeup of the water, not just chucking it into a hard or a soft bracket.
Yeah,
for sure. And and again, UV, I do believe that's one of the biggest things that impacts beni, for sure.
So with regards to people covering in winter,
yes,
polycarb.
Yeah, this is it. So considering the material, I mean, for me, you're as well off just using the plain stuff like corrugated sheet or polythene, things like that don't actually cut UV transmission.
Yeah.
It's one of you can obviously have too much of it as well. We've spoke about that on here, where I believe that can be one of the possible factors linking to ikui so much if they get real strong exposure to too much sunlight. But yeah, other than that, it's the biggest one I've seen, because you sort of see it when that beni gets really soft. Obviously, warm water, when they start growing, it softens the pigment up. You literally see them go from summer to winter, where all of a sudden you're up in 24, they're growing, the beni softens right off, which is why I use colour food at that time of year.
Yeah,
because you've got to obviously start making that colour spread a little bit more. Whereas, in winter, it all tightens back up and hardens up, and that's the sort of process that you go through. And then you see it obviously in Japan between breeders. It's not the water between mud pond and fish house. You've got a big difference in UV transmission. If you're asking me, mud ponds obviously are relatively dark. You've got some UV transmission which gets darker and darker towards the bottom. And the minute they get out of that environment, at harvest time, they're generally really soft beni, and then you get them moved to a concrete pond, and very quickly that starts hardening up.
Yeah.
So for me, yeah, it's a lot more to your original question than just beni types in hard or soft water. See it with sumi as well.
Yeah.
you know that the general vibe that goes around is that sumi doesn't do well in soft water. So if you're looking at that theory, in soft water, Shisui and Ayawakaba by association to Shisui should keep pretty well when the water's soft.
Yeah.
You know, I've got a customer in Manchester, and if he's watching this, he'll probably be throwing things at the telly right now, where he cannot keep Shisui and Ayawakaba in his water. Yeah, it's super, super soft. And I can keep them incredibly well.
Yeah.
So
same
to
issue
me,
down here.
There's more to it.
Yeah. Same issue down here. I know the breeders, for instance, with Asagi, the only one that will stay clean is Oya. Anything else, you can guarantee it'll end up with shimmies on it. So it's a waste of time even trying, because if you've been down that route, you know it's going to happen.
So it's sort of like one of these age-old myths that somehow gets into circulation, in my opinion, where it completely goes out the window. I can keep most breeders' Asagis looking good in my water. Yeah, you've got the soft water, which is supposed to keep the sumi at bay, and yeah, you're struggling.
Yeah, I mean for Showa or Shiro, brilliant, no issue whatsoever.
Yeah.
When you don't want it, you can guarantee it will come up.
Yeah.
So
a lot more to it.
Right, next one. There seems to be a lot of controversial comments on some of the Facebook groups. Without going into details, one that I tend to see an awful lot of is people with koi that don't know the difference between being egg-bound and bacterial. Is there any way of correctly sexing koi to know whether they're female to start, so that if they do start getting big, you can differentiate between whether they're egg-bound or whether it is a bacterial issue? Some people say feel the fins, others look at the vent. Obviously, if you can get milt, it's a male koi.
Are we talking about obviously a fish swelling up underneath?
Yeah, there's a lot of people sort of saying, are these egg-bound or is it bacterial? Now, once you know what you're looking for, you can tell the difference. But for new people coming on asking for this advice, there seems to be a lot of controversial.
Yeah, I think it goes beyond that. Obviously, internal stuff, just in general, it can be many different causes that you need to investigate. Bacterial with that kind of thing, if it's the underneath sort of swelling, then yeah, you're probably not looking at bacterial. Bacterial will come more from the signs of sort of dropsy, where they swell from the outside, as you probably know. So I think honestly, the best advice is when if you've kind of got that swelling, is to seek proper advice to get it diagnosed. Jos, who was with us all last week from Holland, you know, that kind of thing, service where you'll get it properly sorted. Obviously, you can have it screened for any potential bacterial problems if that's what you're worried the concern is. But yeah, coming back to sexing them, I mean, that's relative. I say it's relatively easy. It's actually not. I mean, I was in the Dainichi pond the other day trying to get some ideas off of them, and they were driving me crazy because I mean, we're talking now full sort of getting on for 22-month-old fish, and I was getting oiboshi, looked like it was showing in the fin, but female shaped vents and no milt, and then male shaped vents, no milt. It was just an absolute mess, to be honest. So, but yeah, typically from the sexing, two angles to go out with that. Obviously, when you flip them over, the vent shape itself. So in a more mature male fish, you basically got like, it is just like a long slit, vertical slit down the vent. Whereas with the female fish, you've got the sort of horizontal line with a little bump that starts to form just next to it as well. And yeah, obviously, if you give them a bit of a squeeze, ideally, if you're not confident, you know, anesthetize them, see what's going on. And yeah, male fish, you should at some point be able to get some milt out of there. But that's just another thing. If you're struggling with that fish, you know, it's good if them problems are underneath, to get them out and see what's going on. If it's hard, if it's soft, But there's going to be very little you can do with that sort of problem, to be honest with you. So the very best thing is sort of veterinary advice, to be honest, moving forwards. And so just coming back to sexing the fish, obviously the second part we generally use is on the front ray of the fin, so that very front bone, looking for the oiboshi, the little dots that form on the male fish. But again, it's really, really difficult a lot of the time. And the time of year has a big influence.
Yeah. I actually had a conversation with somebody not so long ago who thought male fish were the ones that have short front rays, which seems to be quite a common thing in certain lines and varieties these days, which is quite worrying. I mean, they were fairly new to the hobby, but there seems to be a lot of information that you just think, where is this coming from? You know, there's videos.
Pecfin shape's a valid one.
Yeah.
Obviously, that I've not mentioned that, because the reason I've probably not mentioned that is because it's becoming harder and harder. Obviously, male fish used to have very distinctive fin shapes versus females, which was probably one of the reasons why, again, you might say that people avoided male fish a little bit, because sometimes it wasn't the most desirable fin shape. But in the whole part of the development of male fish, it's getting harder and harder to tell just from the shape of the fin alone. Because it's very sometimes you can sort of bang on, that's showing them male traits, but that compared to what that was sort of say even 10 years ago, massive difference these days. So and obviously body shape, it used to be very easy to identify from body shape, which with trained eyes you can still see that pretty lot because they carry the weight slightly differently. Male fish tend to really stack it up on the shoulders, so behind the head on that shoulder region. Whereas your females are more all across the body and a little bit more, weight underneath generally in the more mature ones. But not easy to tell. In some bloodlines, like Sakai, for example, where there is just so much power in the lineage full stop, and Dainichi, really hard to tell between top examples of both.
If you've got a fish that is definitely female and carrying eggs, do you advocate trying to get them to naturally spawn, or if you're confident and experienced enough to use a hormone injection, if you can get it, or hand stripping?
Yeah, for me, obviously, hand stripping, you've got to instigate the spawning anyway. You can't just strip the egg off from the get go. But yeah, I mean, it's worthy trying to get them to spawn if it's that sort of fish. I don't see so many of it these days, to be honest with you. What you got to bear in mind as well, it's not necessarily could be egg. It can be from poor diet, feeding wrong diets at the wrong temperatures. It can literally physically be just fat. And it can be inherent in some koi's body type as well. Kajaku are a stickler for it. Some Kikakuru are, Shiro Utsuri from back in the day, some lineages like that, where it's just that they're destined for it because it's inherent within the fish itself. So it can literally just be the way that it carries the weight sometimes as well. But heavily egg fish, in my opinion, good idea to get them sort of stripped off every year, but that can obviously encourage more and more egg to keep coming as well. But best to get a shot of them.
Yeah. Right, on to the next one. Last year in particular, and I know you've touched on this before, Flukes in particular seemed to be an absolute nightmare. Now, most of the treatments have been around for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
The dosage that's actually set on the instructions for use is probably 20, 25 years when that was in the printing.
Yeah.
Do you think it's time that manufacturers actually did a bit more research and upped the dosage?
This is I sort of don't want to give this away because I'm full of fresh knowledge on this from having Jos here. But obviously we've covered this in some of the content for Koi Talk. In our next, I don't know if it's the next. We've recorded 2 podcasts / YouTube videos for it where we was interviewing him, and one of the topics was indeed Flukes. So I don't want to give too much away and ruin that, but it was very interesting. Obviously, one I've always said anyway, it's important to sort of mix the medication up, not just be using the same one all the time. But yeah, it was a lot pointing towards resistance not being the biggest part of the problem, and swaying more along the lines of what I've been barking on about with some medications, in the possibly not being used properly, underdosed, ponds not being prepared properly for the treatments, organics and bacteria playing a huge part in it all as well. And yeah, he recommended some quite, I'm going to say, controversial treatment methods. They're only going to be controversial because it's new information for people, and it goes against manufacturers' guidelines on the packets, and things like that. So yeah, without spoiling that one too much, all I would say is sit tight and look out for it coming, because both of those videos are going to be an absolute superb watch or listen, because I was just sat there in awe, to be honest with you. The guy's incredible. The knowledge is so current and up to date from new and fresh research that he's doing, from other people that he's involved in as well. And I mean, the topics we were covering, KHV, CEV, the disease behind sleeping disease, Flukes, heavy metals, and then bacteria, which is the one that really got him excited. So it's everything that there's. So you're right, the information out there is so dated. Treatment methods are really dated for it, and this guy really is so passionate about it, and he's at the cutting edge. So yeah, again, just sit tight for that one. Get on the YouTube Koi Talk channel and hit the subscribe and notification button, and look out for that one coming, because you're going to love it.
Yeah, look forward to that. Right. The next one, just going back on that slightly, Ricky, is it as big a problem in Japan with flukes as we seem to have over here? I mean, is it something that they preempt? Obviously, they don't have the stress that we submit our fish to, because most of the time the ponds are overstocked. With myself, for instance, I have to go up country to get fish of the caliber that I want. It's usually a 3 or 4 hour journey back to my pond. That's putting stress on the fish immediately. So I usually
obviously, breeders' farms are super stressful environments, because you think of the stocking densities and all the rest of it. And in any environment where it's a bit more commercial and they're being farmed, there's a lot of netting activity and all the rest of it, which are all big stress factors. But no, and I'd say, in a nutshell, no, it's not huge problems out there. But I look at, obviously, and I think I mentioned this, the way they medicate fish would make many eyes who haven't ever seen it before water. And you'd be chucking that in and just hiding and hoping for the best, which I think sometimes some of them do, to be honest. I've had breeders using cocktails of medications that you wouldn't dream of putting together. And treatments for like fluke, but they can use a lot because they can get out of trouble fast because of the way the systems are designed. Most of the facilities have got fast supplies of underground water on demand, and the ability to drain that whole pond through the 4-inch pipe within a matter of minutes. So they're not burdened. Our systems are not designed for that. If you wanted to shift a lot of water, that'd be a painstakingly process. It's not a get out of jail free card like they've got, in essence.
Yeah.
And again, I see it done. It's done in a professional way. When they prepare for treatment, it's a big deal. It's cutting, feeding the part, 2 or 3 days that you should be doing, really, especially for the intensity of the regime they're doing. Cleaning the filters out, getting all the debris out, replenishing water, and then using strengths of medication as well that are a bit scary at times. I mean, many a times I've seen PP used where within sort of half an hour to an hour, the fish are rocking. They really are, side to side, and but it's really hit it hard and fast. And something like PP, you can absolutely decimate flukes with PP, but you've got to use it in a way that I wouldn't be comfortable recommending to most people.
No. I mean, when you see, as you say, the level of water they drop in one hit, it's like my God, they're literally draining it down to like 18 inches and it's
Yeah,
pumped in again. But they have access to that volume of water quickly. The water's
yeah.
brilliant.
Well, if we did that, I mean, the next problem you'd be is that all the issues coming from the dose of chlorine and all the other
Exactly.
crap in the water that they're going to get. So your problems would just go on and on and on.
Yeah, yeah. You just add into it, trying to cure one, but add to it by the way our water is over here, sadly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah,
interesting.
just to, I think yeah, the obviously for them the way they use medications, it gets the job done. So it's not, and this was the whole part of the conversation with Yoss. It's more, I believe, the way we're doing things is a bigger part of the problem than actually the flukes themselves.
Yeah. Right. How are we doing for time? Oh, okay.
Well, we're
Um,
good. We're good.
right. Videos.
Mm-hmm.
This is brilliant. YouTube has so many that are horrendous to watch. I think
Mm-hmm.
they're actually doing far more harm than good. I know
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of new people coming in that are promoting their videos by their pond builds. Um, they're advertising the fact that they've got issues, they're using this product, that product. But I just think some of the information is so dangerous out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't actually see that it's going to be particularly helpful for new people coming into it. They tend to look
Yeah,
at them, think that's gospel, and we need to be nurturing new people because the
agree with
hobby
that.
is struggling with the increasing costs of utilities from when I started, which is coming up 24 years.
Yeah,
Price of fish at the caliber I'm at now are going up in price when you start
yeah,
considerably more than they were back then.
yeah.
Anybody coming into it needs to be encouraged that it's a very rewarding hobby. We
Absolutely.
need to
Yeah.
look after those. Um, Same with Facebook to a certain extent. There's some very
Mm-hmm.
good advice, but it seems to be going down the route of people can't communicate anymore. They're dictatorial in what they think's right, and there just needs to
Yeah.
be so much controversy between comments and aggravation, basically.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, it's a difficult one. I think to a certain extent, when koi clubs were more convenient to go to than they
Yeah.
are now. I mean, the one I was secretary of for 9, 10 years sadly closed because we didn't have the interest. I know
Yeah.
it's not for everybody. People can sit at a computer and hope they get the information, but there's just so many different approaches to a particular subject or item that
Yeah.
it seems to be harmful rather than actually helping people
Yeah.
and even educating people on varieties of fish. I mean, there's one that you um, have access to, golden corn. I think it's
Yeah.
amazing. It's
Yeah.
interesting to watch, and it's what's coming up in the future. Things have to progress without people putting things down basically all the time. And there seems to be an awful lot of that in the hobby now.
Yeah, so that's probably the starting point, Shirley. There, isn't it? I mean, I've been thinking, I just can't. This is in life in general, obviously, and across social media. I get
Mm.
into if there is, if you're looking for negativity, you'll find it in heaps.
Yeah,
You know, because it's there, people fighting for their, whatever it is, ego boost, whatever it is that they're looking for. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. I think it's really important to try and shut out as much of that noise as possible. Gain your experience from your doing. Again, your dealers. This is one for me. I'm always going to say, a lot of the dealers out there are superb and they're very good at for the newbies who are coming into it and helping them through. When you get a good one, it's a crucial part of the business and one we all get it. From the trade side, we need new blood coming into the hobby, and we've got to nurture it. If we don't, obviously the industry is going to fall flat on its arse
yeah,
because we can't just sustain, with everybody that's been in it for a long time. I mean, your pond's, pretty full, Shirley, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's you know, you've got all your equipment, your gear. There's not a lot you're looking to change and do all the time. So yeah, I think that's just in general. You know, social media can be great. It's really opened up the communication. To be honest, YouTube I really love. I think the communities across YouTube seem superb. Seems to be a lot more positivity around, and just general appreciation for the content that's put out. The people doing it, you know, the sort of on the vlog method, you know, big respect for them to doing it, because it's great for producing content. If people just want to watch koi stuff, it's great that they're doing it, because in all honesty, on the dealer side of the fence there, that's one thing I'm not going to let people get away with. The industry itself is doing a pretty shit job of producing the content for people.
Mm.
So ultimately, that void is going to be filled, and it's being filled by hobbyists doing it. So hats off to them for doing that. Just the one bit that certainly is, yeah, it's when that advice, it can get a bit scary, because I know from my background, you know, through working with us, just all these years of experience, there's so many variables to take into consideration, and experience. You know, I know from a lot of people say I've kept koi for 30 years. It's an old one saying, but then I look at that and think it's been one pond possibly kept for 30 years, and your experience is only as good as the worst problems you've ever had.
Yeah.
That is my opinion. And, you know, if I look back to how I've done it myself, you know, I'm operating a site with 60 ponds. At the start of that facility, trust me, it was hell on earth. Some of the shit me and my dad went through in our earlier years of getting this, you know, starting importing lots of fish. Honestly, it was, and those experiences were costly, but my God, you learn from them, and you learn a lot. And obviously, the field that we've got, and the field that dealers have got in general, is that the quantity of ponds that they're dealing with. So what you quickly learn very quickly is patterns, and things that you can see coming, things that people are doing, what's worked in ones in certain areas and not in others. And this experience builds from all of this, which is completely different to one pond that might just, you know, become a really great self-sustaining ecosystem that never really has a problem.
Mm.
So that's for me, yeah, where it gets scary, and without, you know, you've seen on here, if there's things I'm not, you know, that I'm not into, when you get into more that sciencey stuff, I'm not going to tackle it, because I don't need to. You know, I don't need to try and make myself look stupid, to be honest. But there's people out there, you know. That's why we've been keen to get the likes of Yosin to work in the magazine. I know the guy's got incredible knowledge, and it's his area. You know, I've learned to keep koi from experience, like the Japanese. The Japanese know how to do it. It's all visual. It's all done from experience. But then it is also nice sometimes to get somebody to throw the science behind it as well. Like, you know I do X, I get Y result. Then for someone to come and say, well, probably this is actually Y, and explain it, is nice, because it can help you tweak and perform a little bit. But yeah, just giving out that advice, it's tough. I always tread carefully. You know, there's certain things I probably do myself as a koi keeper that I wouldn't dare just to put out there. It's even with the feeding. You know, it's quite easy for me to obviously put out the full routine that I do for feeding and raising fish, how I do. My fear in doing that is that because there are so many variables, and it can be, you know, a little bit dicey into the wire sometimes. You can't just let that out there, because somebody's going to really fuck up with it, being blunt about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And
And
it's like
I'm
everything.
mindful of that.
What works on, you know, you've probably seen it yourself. What works on one pond, you have to tweak on the next one, because it's not going to perform the same. And it's the same
Completely.
with every hobbyist. You know, you
Yeah.
can't be dictatorial, because everybody's pond is different. What works
Yeah.
for one might not work for somebody else. It might work better for
Yeah.
somebody.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's a
And
difficult one. Very
the
difficult.
advice, you've always got to consider what the sort of motive is behind the people giving the advice as well. You know, unfortunately, we can get this with some dealers, where the motive is just selling stuff, which is the worst case. Believe me, yes, they're out there, but likewise, there's a lot where that's completely not the case. What is the motive? For me, when I started this, it was just like I just want to make people more successful koi keepers. That's it, because the whole industry, the bigger picture to that is, I think it's quite a thing that the UK sort of in the sort of pecking order in Japan sort of fell off its perch quite a while ago. From when I first started getting into this, we was a dominant force, and that's sort of really tipped on its head completely now. So I'd like to see us get back to the top of that one day, for sure. And the only way we can do that is through good education and giving people the knowledge and advice to make them more of a success, and showing people a different way as well. And it's not making people feel like shit because they can't afford the best equipment, or made to feel like they can't be a koi keeper because they can't afford X, Y, and Z piece of kit, and make it sound like they can't keep koi if they had that, because with the right knowledge, you can keep them incredibly easy on a very, very low budget.
Yeah.
But it's just the fact of, if you get in certain environments and circles, you'll have it drummed into you that you need to spend £8,000 on filters and have a 15,000 gallon pond in order to keep koi.
Yeah.
Really, really not the case.
I mean, most of us have learnt the hard way by having to go out in a freezing cold winter and clean brushes and everything else. You progress. I mean, I run my pond on showers and drums now for ease of maintenance because of the age I am. I don't particularly want to go out when you've got arthritic hands standing there with freezing cold brushes and cleaning them, etc. So, but it's taken me a long time to get there. But
the point is, the brushes and all that, they still do work. They work for absolutely decades. They do and that's the sort of where I see social media has a big impact in really putting people off what they're doing by making them feel a little bit insecure, inferior. And that's not just koi. That can be across anything in life on social media, because there's a huge amount of false reality on there as well.
Yeah.
So as much as it's a great thing because it has connected people together. Also, it's sort of like treat it with caution a little bit. But for me, it's just it's that simplicity. The simplicity, and I've just seen again so many people burdened by all these layers of complexity, not knowing who to look at, who to follow for that guidance, and then you just get your head scrambled because it's tough. When you cook, if I go into something outside of koi that I'm not sure about, it is an absolute minefield if you can't find the right people.
Yeah.
Because you get on that internet and you just get bounced from pillar to post. So that's why I think it's important to find people that you do respect, you trust what they're saying, and just look into these people a little bit. What is the background?
There's some good books out there.
Simple.
People seem to lose the ability to go and read things anymore. Long term, a quick comment, but to actually go to a library and get books and read things like we had 2 years ago, that's how I glean most of my knowledge. And there's still some very good articles about and books out there, but
there's loads of good stuff about. I just get how tough it is for people to find the advice that they trust.
Yeah.
And that's where I say, with the dealers, it's quite easy. You can walk into their facilities and physically see what they're all about. It is there for all to see. If the fish look like crap, you're not happy with them, and you can see there's problems and bad facilities. You're not going to take their advice. There's just no way.
No.
And you go elsewhere. That's just common sense. You find somewhere where you can see it's done properly, because that is their knowledge and experience on display.
Yeah. Right. I think that's about everything covered on my list.
I feel like I've got let off really lightly there, Shirley.
Is there anybody that's put any questions up that you want to answer while I just check through this?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to fire some on, Steve? Because he'll have been paying attention to them. Oh God, what's your favourite koi variety? God Almighty. Well, I've got to. If we're judged on my actions and behaviour, I think we're moving into the realms of Showa and Ginrin Showa. Probably, to be honest, I've got a soft spot for Ginrin for sure. And yeah, Showa and Shiro. Sorry, I can't just give you one. There's absolutely no chance. But if we look at that, probably overall seems to be common ones. Whenever I'm buying sort of fish for my own collection, it always seems to be Showa. But genuinely, I'm a sucker for anything when it's good, and that's koi for me. You know, I don't dismiss anything because I feel in absolutely every variety, when you see an example at its best, it's inspiring, and that's what gets me a lot of the time. But and it ebbs and flows, to be honest with you. Every year, I've always had a soft spot for Asagi. I know Shirley has as well, to be honest. And if you actually saw my facility at the moment, it looks like I've got an infestation problem with Asagi, to be honest. They're absolutely everywhere, but I've just got it in my head. I want to raise some, and I'm having some fun with them at the minute. But yeah, always Showa and yeah, Ginrin in particular always get me for sure. And yeah, I think it was just all that one on screen a minute, Steve. Yeah, what to look for in Showa? That is a very, very long question. As ever, obviously, body, absolute key. But it really depends what sort of style you're looking for. Sumi quality is massively important in Showa. Really, really important. But yeah, as to what to look for in regards to, you know, the pattern elements, that's going to vary. You've got traditional Showa, he Showa, Kindai Showa, the more sort of super Kindai, as I term them these days, that are very sparse. So a lot of variance there. But yeah, body massive, obviously skin as always. Sumi quality is exceptionally important. And yeah, believe it or not, getting the Sumi with the Beni quality, not always that easy. But yeah, in a nutshell, that's where you want to be with them. Right, do you target certain koi? Okay, which about takes you out. If we're talking about the sort of collection that I have been building up, yeah, it's what takes my eye really. Sometimes it might be that I fancy a particular variety or something does grab my attention. This year, you know, the Dainichi Ginrin Karashigoi from their Yellow Monkey line absolutely caught my attention. Then they're superb. I had the first ones in on my recent shipment of them, look superb. Just managed to grab a few more. But yeah, I've obviously always got my nose out for what's on, what's happening. New varieties are always interesting. Golden Corn have been superb. Some of the examples of the Black Zeus from Dainichi are looking absolutely incredible. There's always a staple of stuff that we want, but yeah, I like to mix it up as well from the facility perspective. Every year, try and bring in something different to keep people engaged, so it's not just the same old every year. But yeah, I think this is the bit, you know, you can never forget, and certainly from my side of it, you know, even that as a wholesaler supplying to the dealers are super passionate koi keepers at heart, you know, and crazy ones because they ultimately take that step and try and turn it into a business and a lifestyle. So, you know, it's important for me, you know, buying koi is probably for most the most enjoyable bit of the hobby. And it's important for me to keep that as engaging and exciting as possible. But also by, you know, doing that, it's keeping the market in the UK fresh and giving, you know, everybody buying these koi opportunity to get into all these different trends and new things that are happening and keep it equally as engaging for everybody. So yeah, got to I never narrow it down too much. That'd get far too boring for sure. Was there any more on the list, Shirley?
Only about oxygen. Is it vital to check for oxygen levels? Obviously, if it's a wildlife pond with plant life.
Oh, the connection's terrible, Shirley.
Have you lost me or just the volume?
It's just breaking up a lot.
Yeah. our signal here is not wonderful at all. Not a lot I can do about that. So if you've got any other questions,
no. Let's we've got another question to pop up on the screen, Steve. Full size koi, so I'm presuming by that we're talking jumbo. So obviously, yeah, the difference here is obviously if you've got a koi that's grown big in an environment, it's not a problem because it's what it's used to. But if you're buying big koi, you know, realistically, they're going to want a decent sized pond to go into. In my opinion, if you're buying big, I don't know, let's call it 70 centimeters or above. Realistically, you want a good few thousand gallons there at least to be popping fish like that straight into long term. But you know, if they've grown up, if it's just a small pond, if they've grown up in it, it's the environment they're used to. So I won't worry about that too much. Yeah, growth and development, awesome. Any more, Steve? Do you think you can grow koi big in an unheated pond? No, not unless it's in Asia somewhere where it's red hot all the time. The heat is a massive part of it. It's just you can grow them bigger, yes, to the extremes of pushing them up to the big numbers, you know, the over 70s and beyond. You're gonna struggle to do that because it's probably going to take too long to get them there, which then your sort of yearly average growth expectancy is going to probably dropped off a lot to push them beyond it, and the summers are just too inconsistent and not warm enough in all honesty. So you can get growth. I'm not going to say that and put people off. You can get really good growth, but I'm talking the serious stuff. You really need that consistency in the long growing seasons, and by that I'm talking having 4 to 5 months where they're potentially at 22 to 25 degrees C every year when you've got that consistently, so you can hit the food into them properly. But obviously, to sort of answer the other side of that, it's not just about having the heat. When you've got the heat, you need to know how to feed them properly. And when you're feeding them properly, you've got to deal with what comes out of them and processing that to keep them happy and healthy. So, yeah, not to sort of oversimplify that question. There's a lot more to it. So yeah, but without the heat, you're going to struggle getting the real big sizes and the real growth bursts that you'll probably see myself getting when I'm posting stuff on social media. The heat's playing a huge part of it, but when you've got it, you've got to know what to do with it, without a doubt. Is it stabled up, Shirley?
not sure.
Yes,
you hear
it
me?
has, I think.
Oh, it has. Right. The last question that I had on my list was the importance of checking for oxygen levels in the pond. Obviously, if it's a wildlife pond, it's going to have more of an impact because you've got plant life. Most people I know don't bother with it. But it was a subject that was raised.
It's all just breaking up again, Shirley. Sorry.
Yeah, not good.
Nightmare. We'll leave it at that from your side, Shirley, because we're having a bit of a nightmare with that. And I'll thank you for coming on, Shirley. And we'll just run through a few more questions while we've got a bit of time. If you want to keep firing a few up, Steve, and guys out there, if you want to keep firing some in. Right, so yeah, the big earthquake, Chuetsu earthquake that hit Niigata was an absolute devastation. That one, I mean, when I say it physically wiped breeders off the map, it put fish houses in the river that was sat on, mountain sides and stuff like that. It was absolutely brutal. Back then, obviously, yeah, the power, they just weren't prepared for anything. I'd say the only real changes that they've made is possibly structurally with some of the buildings now, but are they any more prepared? Can anybody really be prepared for something of the magnitude that earthquake was? I mean, from going about your daily life to, landslides, flooding, everything that was going off, no power, power lines completely destroyed. So, yeah, I do know there's a lot more generators and things like that sat in fish houses should that ever happen. But depending on the nature of that earthquake, there's just some stuff there you can't prevent against, and it really did cause a lot of devastation. And yeah, you saw it in the years after as well that followed as they were trying to rebuild. It took, I reckon, a good 4 to 5 years to get back to the sort of pre-earthquake levels from a quality perspective. But hats off to all them guys. From then they've just taken it and keep raising the bar year on year. And yeah, phenomenal job that they all do. I've just seen that one from Matthew. Thank you very much. What was the score last night? We will leave that one well alone. Thank you. And yeah, next time you come to buy some fish, Matt, you're going to be in for a shock, buddy. Thank you. Well, so we got Steve. Yeah, I'm going to bow out of that question regarding solar because that's not my domain. Know very little about it and the performance of it. All I can tell you for heating thus far is that obviously heat pumps seem to be doing a great job for individual ponds. And again, looking at heat pumps as well for how I would use one, using it a lot cooler in winter, so possibly 8 to 12 degrees as your temperature range. They're going to be pretty cost effective. Certainly the new inverter heat pumps. A friend of mine who actually I go to the football with yesterday went to see his pond. He's got 2 of the new Duratec inverter ones on there, and he's obviously just praising them completely. He's kept his pond relatively warm this winter for far less cost than the previous heat pumps he was running. So it looks like they are going down the right route. All I would say is with the heat pumps, find somebody who knows what they're on about to make sure you get the right one for your pond so it does perform properly. And if we look at obviously the basics, I do know of one, the performance levels of them and the efficiency for when I'd want it in summer for getting the heat pump is going to be its most efficient and effective. So yeah, I mean, it'd be great to hear from any guys out there running these things over winter, what it's costing you to do that and at what temperatures, and if you have been running them to heat in summer, also what that is costing you for a summer period. But yeah, it seems to make sense to me, and they seem to be doing the job. I do know from a lot of the heating, the concerns is them being able to deliver the temperatures when it's cold, to be honest. So that's just one thing to bear in mind. Just seeing a question come through there. I'll nick that one off you, Steve. When you get big shipments in from Japan, like the late video the other night, you put up, do you get many fish that didn't make it long journey? So that night, I can't remember how many fish it was. I think it was about 13,000, weren't it, or something like that. Can't remember. We didn't have a single DOA on them. Not a single one. That's just how good when the preparation is all done and everything is done properly. And there's no, I mean, even with delays, to be honest with you, when the packing's done right, it's not too bad. Given the time of year, obviously all the climates are a lot cooler in Japan and all along the chain. Even when they get here, that makes a big difference to the packing. But yeah, that was a lot of fish, and I think it was 13,707 fish altogether, and not a single one. So hats off to everyone involved. And it just goes to show, the efficiency of everyone involved in that chain, making it happen and getting it done. And it's great that it has become that safe to move fish around from one side of the world to the other. So yeah, happy days. What else have we got, Steve? Have you got a personal pond? Yeah, that one's coming up quite a bit recently. No, I think if I had a pond at home, I'd probably end up being drowning it by the wife, to be honest with you. And she's watching this and probably absolutely agreeing, because I spend enough time at work as it is looking after and dealing with all the fish up there and all involved in. And to be honest with you, obviously I do have a few private fish in Japan, also stock there that's building up as part of the collection. But for me, there'll always be a time when they are put on the market and put up for sale. It's just the business that I'm in. It's always been like that. Yeah, there she is. Look up on screen. Absolutely agreeing. So there it is, guys. Absolutely no way I'm ever having a pond at home. Yeah. So yeah, for me, that, to be honest, it's where I enjoy it. It's the part I really enjoy is it's the finding, the selecting, sourcing, watching a fish develop, because normally when I'm buying tosai on this side, I'll have a very clear vision in my head of what I think that fish is going to do. And it's all part of that learning journey for me of getting it, actually making that happen. Sometimes if the fish is a bit riskier, this is why it'll become part of my own collection and not just put up for sale, because I want to take that risk. I wouldn't be one of wanting to let, any of you guys coughing up for an expensive fish take those risk elements. I'm happier to do it, because if it goes wrong, I am very much at ease. When the shit does hit the fan, fish dies, doesn't turn out it is, I get it's part of the game. It is what it is. And I move on from it. But, with them hiring fish especially, it can be really hard when, somebody's gone all in on spending, potentially a few £1,000 on something and it doesn't quite turn out as planned. So a lot of the time, the learning experiences as well, like the Dainichi project from last year was a major one. And, that's going really well. So, yeah, for me, and obviously the site at Koi Wholesale, it is my playground, so to speak. Trying different things, having different, there's a hobby element to it for me. Like the asagi you mentioned earlier, it makes absolutely no sense for me to have as many asagi lying around as I am at the minute. But at this moment in time, they're what I want to enjoy, have a play around with, see what I can do with them. And generally, just enjoy them for myself. The byproduct will be, they will get sold at some point or raise some great fish. And it's the challenge of having them tosai and raising them through. It's nice. So it is in essence a hobby on steroids. I don't really look at it as there's business size to it in some of the fish I have to buy, but the main growing facilities are the hobby side of it for me every year. Come the end of it, get to sell a load of them and go and buy and keep that cycle going, which is very rewarding and something I'm incredibly grateful for. Any more, Steve? I'm liking these questions coming through today. Why the Japanese core farms have poor websites, Facebook pages? My God, guys, a lot of these breeders are very, very much just farmers, and they just want to get on with farming the koi. It's the only thing they generally care about, even from a sales perspective. Most breeders I know in Niigata are so incredibly poor at actually selling their own koi. It's unbelievable. Some of them can be good salespeople, when the customer's actually in the fish house. But for years, they don't have to rely on going and looking for the business. The product is in such big demand. Ultimately, in my opinion, it makes them lazy because pre-COVID, all throughout the year, they've got regular visitors to the farm. There's hordes of agents working out in Japan, constantly buying stock for customers who aren't out there. So they have to do, the only focus they need to have is just keeping the koi healthy and raising the best koi they can, because pretty much all the other work's done. When they get that order through, they've just got to make sure it's prepared, packed, and shipped properly. And that's their role. Other than that, honestly, they're just really not bothered. You do see the ones where it makes a big difference, and that's where it moves more from being like I wouldn't say a hobby breeder, but just your small, simple koi farm, to the ones that are more business minded. So ones that jump out straight to mind. NND, for example, absolutely superb. The operation that them guys run, the whole service from Azukari, how they keep customers engaged. They've got nice videos, sort of from a marketing perspective, to keep people in the loop. You've got the operations like Dainichi, obviously, phenomenal amount of work they put into the auctions that they do, photographing, videoing all the fish. When you think of the sort of logistics and administration behind it all, it's absolutely crazy. So, you see it with them, Sakai, Momotaro. It's the bigger farms that are more corporate minded than the simple breeders. But to be honest with you, all that said and done, it might not be that great for you guys wanting to read a bit more about them, because you're relying on us to put you the information out. You'd probably like to read it on the breeders' sites themselves. But most of them don't even know how to take a decent picture. Honestly, if you saw them when it comes to it, you got fish in a bowl, they just whip the phone out and take the most horrendous shot at times. So yeah, they're interesting folk. But to be honest with you, it's them farmy type places that I really love to get into the most. You know, a lot of it. I'm not saying the big guys aren't super passionate, because they are, but it is simple. You know, the farms, the small guys, they just love it, and you know, it's quite easy to get closer to them, get behind the scenes on what they're doing, and a lot of them have always got some really useful knowledge and information you can tap into as well. Whereas at the bigger ones, you know, getting behind the scenes at Dainichi, really not that easy. I've been fortunate with the guys of NND. It's pretty much, you know, part of the family there, so to speak, and that has been a massive experience and learning curve for me. But yeah, koi breeders, I don't know. Do I want to call them lazy? Quite possibly. When it comes to actually that side of things, they definitely are. But you know, koi breeding, you can't forget as well, it's hard work when they've got a lot of. You look at a farm like Hirasawa, Marase, for example. I mean, there's just no way they could find the time to do it. They'd have to resource up to a level that they're just not comfortable with, because they're not business minded. But the farm, from a koi breeding perspective, I mean, what an operation! There's absolutely, the guy doesn't even know how many mud ponds he's got. You know, they're all over the place, and he openly admits there's possibly ponds out there with koi swimming around in that he's forgot about, or sort of lost, which is just bizarre. But that scale, and he does it with such few people. You know, there's him, his wife, and literally a handful of other staff, and we're talking, you know, multiple fish houses. And yeah, in the summertime, you know, so many different parent sets, culling, feeding to do, mud ponds to look after. It's crazy. So for them to find some time to even, you know, contemplate finding and managing a staff to do some marketing and PR and run their own website, it's just not realistic. But would I want it to change? No. I want these guys focusing on what they're doing, producing the best koi in the world and keeping that side fresh, and yeah, they can sort of leave us to the rest of it. So yeah, have we got one more, Steve, just to finish on? Absolutely. Yeah, filming in Japan for sure. At the minute, it's going to be tough. I think when I get back out there, hoping, you know, we can get the visa sorted to get out there, hopefully towards the end of April time, I will be doing some filming. I've actually got a really nice project on the back burner. I'm renting a mud pond from NND again this year, where I'm going to have a collection of tosai going there for the summer. So it'd be really great to actually follow that and do that properly these times. So it'd probably just be me, yeah, on a lot more amateur level than what the rest of the team do, to be honest. But it'd be great to capture that content and get it in. And yeah, when eventually it's a lot easier to get out there, we'll get the team out and get some proper footage done for sure. High on the list for me to share some of my experience on a more personal level, and with the Koi Talk venture to actually get some, you know, some real quality content produced to bring some knowledge out to people. So yeah, I can't wait to get stuck into that one personally. So yeah, there we go, guys. I'm shocked, to be honest. Need to get ready for bed. But yeah, absolutely. Thanks again for everyone who's joined in tonight. I've seen we've had a cracking audience again, which is building up every week. Thank you very much for that. All the comments and what, I really do appreciate it, and we're going to keep it coming. Got a really nice video coming out this Sunday as well. It's just a really, I just thought, you know, was coming up with some different ideas. So we threw a really nice Sankey that I've got in the bowl just to do a bit of koi appreciation on. So look out for that one coming. And yeah, I'll be back next week with yeah, lots more to talk about. So thank you very much, and see you then.